गिरवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनराञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनराञ्जन यमुनतीरा बनचारी यमुनतीरा बनचारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनराञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनराञ्जन यमुनतीरा बनचारी यमुनतीरा बनचारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव Jai Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Welcome devotees, those who have just joined. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So we'll be starting off with reading from Srila Prabhupada Leela Mrita, chapter 26, Swamiji's departure. We're on paragraph starting with on July 8th. So on July 8th, after Prabhupada had been at Paradiso for 2 days, Shyamasundar and Mukunda drove up from San Francisco. The next day was to be Rath Yatra, and Shyamasundar and Mukunda, the first devotees to visit Prabhupada since his arrival at Stinson Beach, Dole Prabhupada, all about festival preparations. Of course, the whole festival had been Prabhupada's idea, but the devotees in San Francisco were trying to do exactly as he had asked. Srila Prabhupada had first gotten the idea for the festival while looking out the window of his room above Frederick Street, noticing flatbed trucks passing below. He thought of putting Jagannath deities on the back of such a truck and conducting an American-style Rath Yatra festival. He had even sketched a truck with a four-pillared canopy on the back and decorated with flags, bells, and flower garlands. And he had called in Shama Sundar, make me this cart for Rath Yatra. Now, ready and setting outside the temple on Frederick Street was the cart, a yellow heads rental truck, complements of the diggers and complete with 5-foot columns and a pyramidal cloth canopy. Sitting with Prabhupada on the beach, Mukunda told how all the devotees were walking with great enthusiasm and how the hippies in Haight-Ashbury were talking about the Jagannath parade that would take place the next day. The devotees had tried to route the parade through Golden Gate Park, but the police department would only give permission for them to go south down Frederick Street to the sea. Mukunda said the devotees planned to have Jagannath under the canopy, placing the right side of the truck, Subhadra facing the rear, and Balram facing the left side. He wanted to know if that was all right. Actually, Prabhupada said the deities should ride in separate carts, pulled with ropes by crowd through streets. Maybe that could happen in future years. Do it nicely, he cautioned them, and do not hurry it up. And don't hurry it up. The devotees should drive the truck slowly through the streets down the beach, and there should be constant kirtan. Mukunda and Shamasundar glorified Jayananda. He drove all around San Francisco getting donations of fruits and flowers, found people to help decorate the cart, installed the sound system on the truck, and distributed posters in the stores. He was tireless, and his enthusiasm was inspiring everyone else to take part. The women had been cooking chapatis all day, so there should be thousands to give away to the crowd. The devotees had prepared hundreds of Hare Krishna Rath Yatra festival balloons to release on the streets as the parade began. When the devotees asked what else should they do, Prabhupada said that this was all. A possession, prasadam, distribution, kirtan. The people should get a chance to see Lord Jagannath and chant Hare Krishna. There should be chanting and dancing in the front of the cart throughout the procession. But do everything nicely, Prabhupada said. Do it as well as you can, and Lord Jagannath will be satisfied. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is so beautiful, this is how, and we can see how the Rath Yatra festival started. So all thanks to all the devotees back then, and all thanks to Srila Prabhupada that now we are able to celebrate it in a grand way as well. So now we will move on to reading Srimad Bhagavatam, but before that we will do some prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer all respect and obeisances unto the Supreme Personality, Godhead Narayana, unto Nar Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadev, the author. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके bhaktirбhavati neshtikī. By regular attendance in the classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, established as an irrevocable fact. Just give me a minute. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 31, text 23 and 24. Narada instructs the Prachetas. Maitra Vacha iti Prachetas Rajan Anyasya Bhagavat Katha Shravayitva Brahmalokam Yo Swayam Bhuvo Muni. Maitra Vacha iti Prachetas Rajan Anyasya Bhagavat Katha Shravayitva Brahmalokam Yo Swayam Bhuvo Muni. Maitra Vacha iti Prachetas Rajan Anyasya Bhagavat Katha Shravayitva Brahmalokam Yo Swayam Bhuvo Muni. Would anyone like to recite the verse? Please proceed. Please do so.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I am right.
Yes, please, Prabhu.
Maitreya uvacha iti prachetasho rajan anyascha bhagavat katha sravayitva brahmalokam ayo shayam bhuvo munihi. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Maitreya uvacha iti prachetasho rajan anyascha bhagavat kathaha shrabayitva brahmalokam yayo shayam bhuvo munihi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so now we will move to word. Maitra Vacha, Maitra said, iti, thus, Prachetasa, the Prachetas, Rajan, O king, Anya, others, Cha, also, Bhagavad Katha, topics about the relationship with Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shravayitva, after instructing, Brahmalokam, to Brahmaloka. Yayu went back, Swayambhuva, the son of Lord Brahma, Muni, the great sage. Translation and prepared by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The great sage Maitra continued, My dear King Vidura, Sri Narad Muni, the son of Lord Brahma, thus described all these relationships with Supreme Personality of Godhead to the Prachetas. Afterward, he returned to Brahmaloka. Purport: one has to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead from a pure devotee. The Prachetas got this opportunity from the great sage Narada, who told them of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. We'll move on to the next verse. Text verse 24. Te api tanmukha niryatam yaso loka malapaham hari nishcham yatat padam dayantas tat gatim yayu. I'll just read this through. Word to word. Te, the Prachetas, api, also, tat of Narada, Mukha, from the mouth, Niryatam, gone forth, Yasya, glorification, Loka, of the world, Mala, sins, Apaham, destroying, Hare, of Lord Hari, Nishyamya, having heard, Tat, of the Lord, Padam, feet, Dayanta, meditating upon, Tat Gatim, unto his abode, Yayu went. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hearing from Narada's mouth the glories of the Lord, which vanquishes all the ill fortune of the world, the Prachetas also became attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Meditating on his lotus feet, they advanced to the ultimate destination. Prabhupada. Here it is seen that by hearing the glories of the Lord from a realized devotee, the Prachetas easily attain strong attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, at the end of their lives, they advance to the ultimate goal, Vishnu Lok. It is sure and certain that anyone who always hears the glories of the Lord and thinks of his lotus feet will reach that supreme destination. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 1865, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vasyasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homages unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Om Jnana Tirumandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chashur Untam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Mam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Guru Krishna Goswami Tinamine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashchada Deshtarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Jai. So we will just, I'll go over the translation for both again. The great sage Maitra continued, My dear King Vidura, Sri Narad Muni, the son of Lord Brahma, thus described all his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the Prachetas. Afterward, he returned to Brahmalok. Hearing from Narad's mouth the glories of the Lord, which vanquishes all the ill fortune of the world, the Prachetas also became attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Meditating on his lotus feet, they advanced to the ultimate destination. So, thank you everyone for joining today. I would like to seek all the Vaishnavas present here, their blessings, so that I can glorify these verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, it purifies oneself and it purifies the listeners. So I'm seeking your blessings that I'm able to glorify it so we all can get something out of these verses and utilize it in our daily life. So thank you, everyone. So before we begin, we will recap on what we have seen so far. As we have actually come to the end of, almost end of Canto 4, the last chapter we are on, and I would just like to recollect on some of the key incidents that has happened so far. We have seen that the Prachetas, who are the 10 sons of King Prachinabharisat, on the order of their father, the Prachetas, they took austerity for 10,000 years under the water. The Prachetas, I mean, we've seen Prachetas met with Lord Shiva. They were so fortunate. They met with Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva gave them Rudragit. There's one point that I've seen while I was just going over the verses again, that Lord Shiva was very pleased with the Prachetas and gave darshan due to the fact, we see it in verse 28 of chapter 24, where Lord Shiva says, any person who is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the controller of everything, material nature as well as the living entity, is actually very dear to me. So that is one of the reasons I wanted to just touch that Lord Shiva appeared to the Prachetas. We saw that the Prachetas, when they got the Rudragit, they meditated on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they had darshan of Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu was very pleased with their cooperation, and the two facts that the cooperation between the brothers, and for them to be following the instruction of their father. Those are the two important points raised there, that Lord Vishnu was pleased with them and gave them darshan. And obviously they were given all the benedictions, which they didn't want, but Lord Shiva gave them, and Lord Vishnu gave them benedictions, and also instructed them to marry the daughter of the trees, Marisha. When the Prachetas came out of the water, they saw huge trees. It's the trees grown all over the world, and they were not very pleased with it. They were angry, and they started emitting fire from their mouth, and they burned all the trees down. To pacify them, Lord Brahma appeared and pacified them to carry on with their instruction and to, get married. So the Prachetas married Marisha, and Daksha was born. In this chapter, we saw that the Prachetas retired from their household duties, and when they did so, they met with Narad Muni. There's a very interesting verse that we see on this chapter, verse 6 to 7, where it says, Master, may we inform you that because of our being overly attached to family affairs, we almost forgot the instructions we received from Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. Kindly enlighten us. So this was the Prachetas saying to Narad Muni that, because we were so much attached to family affairs, we have almost forgotten. Now, this is the position of Prachetas. They're putting themselves so humble, and they're wanting Narad Muni to further enlighten them. So we can see from the lives of the Prachetas that, being so fortunate, they received the darshan of Lord Shiva. They received instruction from Lord Shiva. Then they had darshan of Lord Vishnu, who further gave them benedictions and, sort of secured them that, at the end of the life, you will be returning back to me. And then further on, they met with Narad Muni, who further instructs them on the devotional service aspect of Lord Hari. But the position of the Prachetas they were very humble. They were very humble, and humility is the very basis of devotional life. So with that, I would like to proceed with today's verse. Very important verse, and very, like all other verses we have seen, it's giving us everything we need for our spiritual life, everything we can aspire for to be successful in our spiritual life and achieve the ultimate goal of going back to Godhead, to Lord's abode. You see, both the verses are talking about hearing the glories of the Lord, and hearing from whom? The pure devotees, the realized devotees. And the emphasis is on hearing the glories of the Lord from pure devotees. So what happens when we hear from a pure devotee? The word used here is mal apaham. mal apaham. When we hear from pure devotees, all the sins gets vanquished and destroyed. So all the inauspicious gets washed away. And you know how we are carrying all the baggage from our previous life and everything that we do here, which obviously has a bad karma effect, you know, we're carrying it with us. And hearing from pure devotees destroys those sins that, you know, that is with us. So the question can come up, can it be destroyed overnight? Can it happen overnight? Answer could be yes and no. You know, it depends on how we're hearing and how we're chanting. So there is a process given, you know, just like everything else in the world, there is a process, and the process is called devotional service, as we say, bhakti. I just wanted to touch on a few points in regards to what is bhakti, what is devotional service, and it is from Srimad Bhagavatam. We see in Canto 4, chapter 29, where it says, verse 71, devotional service means engaging the spiritual body and spiritual senses in the service of the Lord. So engaging our body and spiritual senses. Also on chapter 29, text 75, it says, devotional service means always thinking of Krishna. And then there is in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 1.91 in the purport, it says, devotional service means engaging everything for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's so many places where we can find, you know, different meanings of devotional service, which just sums up that, you know, engaging ourselves in the Supreme Personality, in the service of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one has to practice devotional service. That is the key aspect of it. And there is 9 processes of bhakti, devotional service, starting from hearing and chanting. And, you know, obviously the 9 processes we have is hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the Lord as feet, deity worship, praying, executing orders, serving as a friend, and complete surrender. Shravana Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Achanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, and Atmanivedanam. So these are the 9 processes of bhakti. But today we'll be talking on hearing and chanting, because these are the very first items, hearing and chanting, and the importance of hearing and chanting. I've picked a few points that in itself in Canto 4, where the glories of hearing Krishna Katha is given. And for those who do have reference to Bhagavad Shabdani, I mean, you'll find it at the end of it. It does give a very good summary of everything, all the important verses and important points that, you know, takeaway points of each canto. And I've just pulled it from there to be, you know, to share it today, because it so beautifully describes listening to Krishna Katha, how it increases love and devotion. So the first one that I've got is, it's from Canto 4, chapter 22, verse 22. It says, attachment to the Lord will be increased. I'm not reading the Sanskrit one. I'm just giving the, you know, just the important bit of it, that attachment to the Lord will be increased. The second is attachment to the Lord and detachment from the material world will be quickly achieved by Krishna Katha, which are like ornamental decoration on the ears. That's so beautiful. That is from text 25. And from chapter 29, text 38, it says, one achieves bhakti just by hearing Krishna Katha. By hearing the pastime of Dhruva with faith and devotion, one attains pure devotion, that we find in chapter 12, verse 46. So one's eternal relationship with the Lord is revived by hearing from great souls. So, you know, there's so many different meanings of it, but how Krishna Katha increases our love and devotion is given in Canto 4 in so many places, and just pick few of them. And also there's so many different points given that Krishna Katha vanquishes unwanted things. So we see it here, first point I've got here is glorification of the Lord cleanses the lusty desires from the core of the heart, that we find in chapter 22, text 20. So if we hear Krishna Katha, all those lusty desires, they get cleansed. So that is so, so benefiting. Krishna Katha is so benefiting. We don't realize. But it does so many things in the back end. So by discussion of the Lord, one becomes free from hankering, at least for the time being. When we are sitting in temple or listening to katha and we are attentive, that's another point. If we're attentive, we forget about everything else which is happening around us, and and it tells you over there, if one becomes free from hankering, you forget about all the rest of the things which is happening around you. So, which is great, at least for that time being, and envy and anxiety. Simply by chanting the Lord's holy name, one can surpass all obstacles. There's so many things given, and it's about us. I guess it comes down to us to have that much faith. And I've compiled few things here in terms of some stories that we can relate to and probably inspire us to be more attentive in how we do things. So also we have this famous verse from Sistastika that Cheto Darpana Majnam Bhava Maha Dukani Nirvapanam. Glory to Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. So just by hearing, it cleanses our heart. I've got a beautiful pastime here that I wanted to share with everyone. This is the pastime of King Kulashekar. I am sure everyone is aware of these stories, but it's very very beautiful pastime, and we can learn so much from it. So King Kulashekar, he was a great devotee of Lord Rama, and he was such a great devotee that he used to always daily hear Ramayana narrations from his guru. So King's guru would daily come and recite Ramayana to him. The king was so entranced in the spiritual consciousness that he lived and breathed the pastimes of Lord Ram. He was actually living and breathing on the Ramayana. So when he used to hear, he used to be actually present in that pastime. So one day, while the Guru was reciting Ramayana, and it was a pastime at Dandakarna forest where Lord Ram was attacked by 14,000 demons, and Lord Ram himself was fighting. He was fighting alone. And as soon as King Kulashekar heard this, that my lord is fighting alone, and these are 14,000 demons, he at once stood up. He at once stood up and ordered his army to march him to the place where Lord Ram is. And the ministers and everyone were like, okay, what do we do? So they made a plan that, okay, we cannot actually tell the king that this is obviously a pastime that has happened in the Treta Yuga. So he said we just have to go with the flow. So he gave the instruction to a group of armies, or some of the army men, that okay, you go ahead, and on your way return, we'll just inform that everything has finished. So they, he sent some of the armies ahead of the king. So while king was marching, the troop that was sent prior, they returned and they said, oh, Lord Ram has won. We don't have to actually go now because he has won and he has taken Mother Sita back home. So King Kulashekar was so overjoyed. He was so happy that, my Lord has conquered Ravana and all the demons. So, and it just shows that King Kulashekar was so much immersed in the love of Lord Ram that he was living it. He was living those pastimes. It wasn't just hearing, it was in him. So obviously, in this pastime, we have also seen it wasn't just, that, the King Kulashekar was fanatic or something, that, for the other ministers also over there, that the king has gone crazy. But one of the pastimes along this also took place that one day the guru wasn't available to recite Ramayana, and one of his sons actually recited. And when he recited the pastime of Mother Sita being taken away, the king was just in a very devastated state. He actually marched to the sea. He actually went to the sea so that he can swim across and save Mother Sita. Now, Lord Ram saw this, that, this is my bhakt who loves him so much and is so immersed in my bhakti. So Lord Ram actually appeared to him with Mother Sita and the whole troop from, Lanka, Hanuman and everybody, and then just to give him the darshan, and the ministers also to see that, the Lord is actually present for his devotees. It wasn't anything like fanatism or anything. Just to prove that point, even Lord Ram reciprocated with King Kulashekar. So we learn that from these pastimes, we learn that how our mood should be when we are hearing Lord's pastimes. We should be fully absorbed. We should be attentive, not imitating, but with honesty and sincerity. We should have faith in Lord. So, I wanted to make this beautiful point from this pastime. Secondly, I've got quite a bit of stories today to tell, so bear with me. Secondly is the chanting of the holy names. Chanting of the holy names, how we should be chanting the holy names. There's a beautiful pastime of Srila Prabhupada. I've got this from Srila Prabhupada Memories, and this was shared by Vyasaki Das. I'm sure some of you must have seen this pastime. It's very, very nice. So it goes like, at that point in time, Srila Prabhupada was actually in Grasta ashram. So, and he had his pharmacies, and he was running the pharmacies. So he had a friend, and Dr. Kapoor, who was also his god brother, and they became good friends. They were good friends. So one day, Srila Prabhupada gifted him a tonic. Prabhupada was a pharmacist, so he gifted him a tonic. And Dr. Kapoor accepted it. He accepted it, but appreciated it. Obviously, he said to Srila Prabhupada, "Thank you for this, but I actually want the tonic that you take." And Srila Prabhupada was like, "What tonic?" And he was like, "Krishna Prem." And Prabhupada just laughed, and he was like, "Oh, there's no tonic for this, but there's actually a formula. There's a formula, and the formula for Krishna Prem," he recited the third verse of Shastastakam. He said, "Trinada pisani chena taror abisa hisnuna, amanina manadena kirtana sadahari." So this is the formula that Srila Prabhupada at that time, when he wasn't in US, he wasn't preaching as such, he was in his Grasta ashram preparing himself for that journey. So at that point in time, Srila Prabhupada gave that. And obviously I'm just going to give the translation of this verse. One can chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. And Srila Prabhupada gave this formula. So this is the secret to all spiritual success. So the secret to all spiritual success lies in the chanting of the holy names of Krishna with humility, tolerance, and giving respect to all, to everyone, either it been a devotee or non-devotee. These three important aspects of constantly chanting, how we can develop love to chanting of the holy names. So Prabhu Vyasika Das, he further actually expands these three items of how Srila Prabhupada actually lived it. And he gives these pastimes of the encounters that he had with Srila Prabhupada, and he actually saw and he heard how Srila Prabhupada would deal with situations. So I would like to share those ones as well. So Trinath Apisanichena, more humble than a blade of grass. You can see from Srila Prabhupada's pastimes. This was in 1972 in New York, July 4th. It was a festive weekend. And devotees from all over the place came. They came from all over the US. Thousands of devotees were there at the New York temple. They were there just to see Srila Prabhupada and, just to meet him and hear from him. And on Srila Prabhupada's departure to the airport, everybody went to the airport, It's like, I can't imagine how it would have been like we practice it when our Gurudev comes. We go pick him up from the airport. But obviously, when it was Srila Prabhupada, there was thousands of devotees going. So, he was, everyone was going. So everybody actually went inside departure lounge. And I can imagine, though New York being a bigger airport, but the departure lounge was filled with devotees, only devotees. There were hardly any other passengers in there. So one of the officials, when they saw that, it seems to be a bit of a situation here, so he approached one of the devotees. And he approached one of the devotees just to say that, can you please get, your devotees outside, because we want the actual passengers to come in now. So the devotee, he was a senior devotee. He just stood on a chair and he said, attention devotees, now we need to leave. Now we need to leave because the passengers needs to come in. And the devotees, they just looked at him, did nothing. Nobody moved except one person, Srila Prabhupada. He stood up and he started walking to the door. And they were like, no, you don't have to go, Srila Prabhupada. The rest needs to go. So Srila Prabhupada was the only humble Vaishnava out of everybody sitting there. So, Srila Prabhupada shows that, how humble he is. He was like, I'm one of the devotees, so I should get up and leave. So we learned, we see from this passage, it's very beautiful. And then the other one is Taro api sahisnuna, more tolerant than a tree. Now this pastime happened in 1975, and Srila Prabhupada for the first time was flying to South Africa. And on the flight were a South African football team. And they just won the match and they were like happy. They were way happy. So the flight took off and the air hostess were, served them with drinks and everything. So the football team, the players were a little high. They were, I would say, a bit high, and they were rowdy. They were just noisy. And accompanying Srila Prabhupada on that flight was Tusta Krishna Prabhu. And, the football players, they were high, and they definitely, they actually lit up a cigarette and they started smoking in a non-smoking flight, in a non-smoking cabin. So Tusta Krishna Prabhu wasn't very happy. So he just, called for the air hostess, and she came and he explained, what, can you please tell them that, this is a non-smoking cabin, for them to just, light it off. So the hostess went and explained, and the players, they obeyed. They said, okay. And they just, lit it off. But after a while, because obviously they were drunk, they lit it up again. So Shri Krishna Prabhu was like, okay, and now I need to take matters in my own hands. And he just stood up, and Srila Prabhupada looked at him and is like, oh, where are you going? And Shri Krishna Prabhu was like, I'm just going to tell them. And Srila Prabhupada was like, no, sit down. And and then Srila Prabhupada looked into his eyes and said that, he actually said the words that I got. It was so beautiful, what is the difference between us and them if we cannot tolerate? Srila Prabhupada tolerated the whole rowdiness of those, and not just rowdiness, the smell of the cigarette and everything. Srila Prabhupada tolerated and was not disturbed by that whole situation. It's a very important lesson, that we come across this. It's very hard for us to tolerate things that we don't want to even be around. If there's somewhere that we're even crossing by, or in a crowd, or even in a plane, if some situation like this happens, how do we deal with it? Our dealing is so much opposite. I mean, I would speak for myself. I would be making faces, or doing things that doesn't come up as a behavior of devotees, how a devotee should be behaving. So this was very beautiful, and obviously I'm sure you guys have heard these pastimes, but just the reviving, just for us to hear it again, it's very beautiful. And then amani namani dena, giving all respect to others. And this pastime is actually in 1976 in Mumbai, when the Bombay temple was under construction. So one morning after breakfast, Srila Prabhupada had all his team members, all the project leads, all the GVCs, architects, contractors, everybody in the room. They were having a meeting, and it was Srila Prabhupada's room, and the door was ajar, it was a little open. So comes the cleaning lady. She comes up, and this was like, I think, a couple of floors up, and the cleaning lady comes up, and she could see from the door that Srila Prabhupada is there, and there's everybody there, and they're speaking. So she couldn't go down, she couldn't go back, she had to do her duty, and she didn't know what to do. So she stood there, and and it's like her daily dollar daily, or whatever. She was trying to earn money from doing her service, her cleaning. So there was a cleaning lady. So while Srila Prabhupada was talking, and suddenly he turned his head and he saw towards the lady, the cleaning lady, and he stops. Immediately he stops. And he stops and he says to everyone, okay, now we need to stop. The cleaning lady has arrived. It's her time now, and she is the authority. When it's her time, she's the authority. So we all need to leave now. She needs to do her job. So this is Srila Prabhupada, our Jagat Guru, who recognizes a cleaning lady's authority. He gives respect to everybody, regardless of what minimal service a person is doing. He gives respect to everybody. So we see Srila Prabhupada being the embodiment and pacification of this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena Taroapi Sahisnuna Amanina Manatena Kirtana Sadahari. Then only we can constantly chant humility, tolerance, and giving all respect to others. These three are the key for Krishna Prem. And going back to Krishna's abode. Also in the purport, we see Bhagavad Gita quote 1865. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mamevasya satyam te pratijana priyosi me. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homages unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Lord Krishna is making this promise. And we also see this verse appearing in chapter 9, in Confidential Knowledge, chapter 9, verse 34, the last verse. A repeat of the verse. Manmana bhava madbhakto matyajinam namaskuru mam evasasis yukta vevam atmanam madparayana. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances unto me. Worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So the Lord has said this verse twice. Why would somebody say things twice? When things are repeated, it means there's emphasis on it. It's very important. I've even heard, I was listening to a lecture on this particular verse itself, and the acharyas say that this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Just by doing these 4 things, we can go back to Lord, to Krishna. And Krishna promises this. So, Pratijane priyosime, I promise you this because you're my very dear friend. So we need to become friends with Krishna. And how do we become friends with Krishna? Simply by following the instructions of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhus. So following these footsteps, just following in the footsteps. I think that is the only thing we have to do. Everything is given to us. We just need to cultivate the knowledge of Krishna prayer. Cultivate the knowledge of Krishna through Guru, Shastra, and Sadhus. And it says very beautifully, one should lower his head before the deity, engage his mind, his body, his activities, and everything. That will make one fully absorbed in Krishna without deviation. This will help one to transfer to Krishna lok. So many verses, so many places we see how. And the emphasis is just engaging our mind in the service, our mind, our body, our activities, everything in service of the Lord. So with that, I will just conclude the 3 very important points. So we need to keep a check on our hearing Lord's pastimes. We should be attentive, fully absorbed, not imitating, but with honesty and sincerity. We need to have faith in the Lord. The secret of all spiritual success lies in chanting of the holy names of Krishna with humility, tolerance, and giving all respect to others. And third, engaging mind, body, and our activities in the service of the Lord, so that we can be fully absorbed, and this will help us to go back to Krishna Lord. Jai. So I will stop there. If anybody would like to add anything, any comment or anything you'd like to add that I have missed on, please do so. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanam Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you for a nice exposition of 2 verses and your emphasis on the Srinadapi verses and giving so many examples. Yes, these are very important verses. Thank you for bringing this out. Thank you, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, pranams. Thank you very much for a wonderful class. So many examples, and especially like the examples of Prabhupada with his disciples. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So if nobody has anything else to add, then we can close the class here. Panchakalpitarubhyascha kripa
Sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
namo namah. Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Koti
jai.
Vaishnav ki jai.
Jai.
Her grace Atmamaya Dasi I SB jai. Shri Prabhupada jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Assembled devotee. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.